Hello, welcome to the Reverend and the Retcon. I'm the Reverend.
And I'm the Retcon.
We're two nerdy Christians who love talking about sci-fi, fantasy, and good storytelling, so we decided to make a podcast about it, and here it is.
This week we're going to be talking about Star Wars, specifically the Mandalorian and Grogu, but we'll start out with our general feelings about Disney era Star Wars, what we think they're doing well, where they might need some work, and then in the latter half of this episode we'll get into the Mandalorian and Grogu specifically and give you kind of our feelings on that, whether we recommend you see it or not, and what we think it did well or what it think it needed to work on too. Levi and I have not talked about this yet. We've been intentionally keeping our opinions separate from each other, so we could end up on the same page or we could end up with wildly different takes. We'll kind of see how this goes. Um, but
Yeah.
first off, we're going to do our general feelings toward Star Wars.
Yeah.
Levi,
So go before Disney.
before
What?
Disney.
What?
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Not
like
Disney era
start.
specifically.
Yeah, start with before Disney. How before Disney happened and took Star Wars? How did you feel about Star Wars in general? How did you grew up with it, like I did? I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
Yeah, I was a big Star Wars fan. Star Wars is probably some of my earliest memories is watching the original three Star Wars is at like 4 years old, which is probably too young for Star Wars, but is there really a too young for Star Wars? I assume you've shown Williams some Star Wars by this point. Yep.
Definitely. How about
Yep.
Emma?
So uh Emma's not so much. She's a girl.
There's Princess Leia.
I know. We've dabbled a little bit with some of the kids shows, but I don't know. I'm hesitant to. She's a bit more skittish about that kind of thing, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, some of those was my earliest memories was watching a New Hope and Empire and Return of the Jedi and playing Star Wars with my older brother with sticks and towels for Jedi robes. So
Mm-hmm.
grew up with it. Grew up with the sequel trilogy, not the sequel trilogy, but the prequel trilogy. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I enjoyed those as a kid, as they were made for kids, and I enjoy them now. How about you?
Same. 4, 5 years old. I remember my grandparents actually took it away because I was nonstop watching them. Like I
Mm,
went there for a week and I was watching like all of them every day, and they were like, "You need to stop, watch something else." And I think
nice.
they gave me Indiana Jones. Um, um, no, grew up absolutely loving Star Wars, playing it all the time. Um, enjoyed the prequels. I remember I was about the Attack of the Clones came out in 2002. Am I right about that? 2001,
Sometime around there,
2002.
yeah.
So I was
Did,
4, and my it came out on DVD, and my parents were not sure if it was appropriate for me to watch, so they stayed up, and I remember hiding underneath the couch, which was like a um, an ottoman, and watching it while they were watching it for the first time, and they didn't catch me, and that's still my like
nice.
most stealthy moment as a child was watching Attack of the Clones underneath the ottoman.
Yeah. Disney era Star Wars. Dum dum dum.
Uh-huh.
How do we feel? I think you were more agreeing with it. You're more perceptive to it or receptive to it than I am. Is that
Mm.
probably a true statement?
The more distance I get, the more I dislike it. Um,
Mm,
I think that I maybe have recency bias in a lot of ways. Um,
okay.
but also just looking especially at the sequel trilogy in hindsight ruins all of it.
Yep.
As it was coming out, it was like, where's this going? Like, I
Yep.
think this is setting up some interesting things. Um, and then, yeah, the Rise of Skywalker just took a dump on Star Wars, in my
Garbage.
opinion. Yeah.
Yep.
And so now it makes all of that sequel trilogy reek for me. Even though I kind of liked The Last Jedi when it first came out, I know a lot of people didn't, but I was
Sacrilege.
I was yeah, I liked it spoke with me. It made sense to me. Um, Interestingly enough, in hindsight, I think it probably is the most faithful to the Eastern religions that Star Wars wants to
Yeah,
have as the source of mythology in this balance of yin and yang. All the movies say balance with the Force, but they really mean the good guys win
good
and
over evil. Yeah,
the light side wins. But when they say balance, they don't actually mean balance. But I think Ryan Johnson actually was like, no, balance is balance. Like
yeah.
there's a
It's a good take.
duality to that.
Yeah,
Um, and so yeah, mostly on the negative end with Disney, Star Wars. I like some of the shows, the TV shows,
yeah.
and
We'll
get
get
into
it.
that
We'll
more.
get into the shows. Yeah, but yeah. As far as
Yeah, what
I
do you think?
would also say for as far as the trilogy, the sequel trilogy, I liked the first one. I was a big fan of The Force Awakens, even though everybody thought it was contrived and too much of trying to hit us with the nostalgia bombing, which I agree it's there. But at the time, we were happy with that. At least I was happy with that. You know, it'd been years since we had anything like the original trilogy.
Mm,
And so I was happy to feel those feels again. And then I'm with the greater Star Wars audience and feeling that Ryan Johnson was the worst thing that ever happened to Star Wars. But I will admit there are some good things in there. Like I'm not saying it's utter garbage. Like the Rise of Skywalker. Is that what the last one's called?
yes.
Rise of Skywalker. Even the title makes no sense. um, yeah, Rise of Skywalker is utter garbage.
Hmm.
Last Jedi, at least it was trying to do something. You know, it was trying
Yeah,
to make an interesting story as much as it failed at doing so.
I would put The Last Jedi above Force Awakens, but it's primarily because I think The Force Awakens was inspired by George Lucas, whereas The Last Jedi was inspired by a lot of different stuff, which
Yeah.
was how George Lucas made Star Wars as like, I'm inspired by these 100 things that I'm
Mm-hmm.
bringing into this one mythology. And then when he made the prequels, it was the same thing. He's like looking at the fall of Rome and the fall of empires and the Luciferian fall and
Yeah.
all these things, and bringing those in and making a story out of it. And a lot of people were upset with them because they wanted him to be inspired by himself, if that makes sense. They wanted him to do the same thing he did before. And
Yeah.
so when Disney comes along, they're not trying to tell a story, an original story. They're inspired by Star Wars, and so they're trying to make the same thing. Whereas I feel like
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson wasn't trying to make the same thing, but was trying to do his own thing.
I mean, was he though? I feel like he was trying to make the anti Star Wars more than taking his own inspirations from outside of Star Wars and telling a unique story. He was just like, I'm going to make a
Hmm.
Star Wars movie that's against everything that Star Wars stands for, and that in its own is its own flaw. I think the bigger
But
Disney flaw is just the inability to tell a coherent story, kind of like what you're saying.
yeah,
Like they're not taking inspiration. They're not, you know, saying what's an original idea we can bring to Star. At least in the sequel trilogy, you know, the
yeah,
shows there. I think the shows there's some good stuff there. But did you have
yeah,
another comment before we get into shows?
yeah. No, I was just going to say that I think that if J.J. Abrams had made the whole thing, I think it would have been vastly better.
Yeah,
Um, I think it would have been probably like 7 out of 10 across the board.
yeah. It wouldn't have been amazing, but it would have been a story, a
Right.
coherent
But
story.
I I think the big mistake was not following Ryan Johnson's direction. It
Yeah,
it was not that everything was the right decision, but they should have stuck to their guns. Everybody hated the fact that Darth Vader was Luke's father. They thought that was the dumbest thing that had ever happened. people really disliked it, but George Lucas stuck to his guns, and the prequels are, or not the prequels, the original trilogy is.
Yeah, and that's the
Anyway,
most legendary reveal in cinema.
yeah, and so Ray Skywalker or Ray, ugh, Ray is a nobody. That's a direction to go. I feel like the first movie, Ray was Obi-Wan's granddaughter. In the second movie, she's nobody, and then all of a sudden she's a Palpatine, and it was just like
Palpatine.
that's ridiculous. That third movie is Syllabus Day. I am very generous with movies. It is like a 2 out of 10 for me. I've seen it once.
Same.
The best part of it was the end credits.
Yep. I've seen Force Awakens a few times. I've seen Last Jedi once. Tried to watch it a second time. Couldn't do it. Couldn't subject myself to it.
Sure.
And then saw The Rise of Skywalker in theaters and never again,
Yeah.
which is horrible. Like
Yeah.
that, we as huge Star Wars fans feel that way about a major trilogy within
Yeah.
the
You're talking
franchise.
about I've probably seen all the other movies. I not exaggerating over 30 times.
Oh yeah,
Like
totally.
so many times. But yeah, not everything from Disney Star Wars has been bad. The shows, I think there's been a lot of good stuff in the shows, even a lot of the shows that people didn't like as much. And some of them,
Mhm.
yeah, I didn't care for the Acolyte.
Yep.
What the um the witches and the
Yeah.
woke
That's another
agenda
one where
boiled into that.
they're not even telling a story. They're taking an agenda and trying to make it fit into Star Wars or make Star Wars
Yeah,
fit their agenda. Like you have your opinions, put your agenda in there, but tell a coherent story while you do it, and I'll be
right.
fine. Like I won't love the agenda being in there, but I'll at least enjoy a good Star Wars story while I suffer through
Hmm.
it.
Right. Um, but I even liked Obi-Wan. I would say that hesitantly, like it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it had some good
Yeah.
moments to it.
I'm probably on the outskirts where I love Kenobi.
Oh,
uh, uh,
sure,
there are parts of it that aren't great, of course, but Kenobi is my favorite character in all of Star Wars. So
sure,
seeing more of his story can never be a bad thing to me, even if that story has some really silly bits to it.
sure. Question, how about the animated series? Are you familiar? Did you watch the animated series, the
I've
Rebels and
watched, yeah, I've watched most of Clone Wars. I've watched most of Rebels, and I tried to get into them and try to finish them. I watch them a little bits every now and then, but I'm not a huge cartoon fan in general. Like I don't like a lot of adult cartoons at all, so it's hard for me to like really commit to watching them. But I've seen a good bit of them. Like I
yeah,
like what's there.
yeah. I've seen I've seen all of Clone Wars, all of Rebels, parts of like Tales of the Jedi. Wasn't really interested in Tales of the Sith,
Yep,
or
same.
Bad Batch, or I haven't checked out
I
Darth Maul
started that
Shadow
one.
Lord.
I liked what I watched of that one. I would like to go back to it. It's just you know finding time that I want to
Yeah,
commit to
same.
that.
I kind of want to see that one, but I really liked Ahsoka. I
Hmm.
thought that's bringing Star Wars in a
Yep.
cool direction.
Yeah, kind of hitting on those. Filoni, the new co-president of Star Wars. How do you feel about his storytelling in general? Because not to get into the Mandalorian too much, this is very much a Filoni story.
Hmm.
So he's Rebels, or he's not Rebels, is he? He might be Rebels, but
Yeah,
he's Clone Wars for
he at
sure.
least had his fingers in it.
Yeah, Clone Wars for sure, and then he's Ahsoka big time, and then a
Yep.
lot of the Mandalorian as well. So he's what we have as the helm of Star Wars now. So do you have any big opinions about Filoni or his characters and stories he likes to tell?
I would say that I feel a lot better with him than with Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not. Well, actually, I think he's very similar to George Lucas. He is more of a successor to George Lucas. George Lucas did not always make the best decisions. Like I really love the prequels, but I understand that there's some some weird things. Jar Jar is weird. I love him because I watched him when I was a kid. Like, and I can
Yeah.
understand if I
I
watched
watched him
him
as a kid
now.
and I still can't stand Jar Jar.
I
I've
have I have some appreciation for him, but not a lot.
I've always been a bit of the believer in the Darth Jar Jar theory, just because I want his presence there to make more sense.
Right? So I feel like Filoni might make more mistakes, or might make more mistakes, kind of like Lucas.
Mhm.
Um, I do not think that he's going to move Star Wars in a creative, necessarily creative direction, but might right the ship to be more in a. I'm going to say something a little controversial, maybe. I think that if you just put someone in charge of Star Wars who cares and makes decisions, it will be better than what Disney Star Wars has been so far.
Yeah.
You just need someone who's making intentional decisions. I think if I went and pretty much brought anyone that I know that loves Star Wars and put them in charge of the sequel trilogy, we would have gotten something better than what we got.
Yeah.
Just as
Totally.
long as someone was in charge and making decisions and it
Yeah.
wasn't a
It's
committee.
it's the classic problem I think Marvel's having too is, who is there with a vision, which Marvel has Feige, but I don't even know how much of a vision Feige has anymore. And now, Star Wars has Filoni. And I just wonder how much of their vision is even making it through like the corporate edits. Like, is Disney the company ruining Star Wars, like by not letting these creatives fulfill their creative passion to tell the stories they want to tell? Which
Mm.
Mandalorian Grogu seems very much like it came from the mind of Dave Filoni. So I kind of feel like
Hmm.
his stuff made it through the edits or through the corporate machine there. Go ahead.
Two things we haven't talked about before we get to Mandalorian Grogu.
Mhm.
Andor,
Oh,
Rogue
yes.
One. What do you think? I feel like those are in a they're in their own league within Disney Star Wars. They're unlike anything else in Disney Star Wars
Yep.
or anything in Lucas Star Wars.
100%. I think those should be the like North Star for where Star Wars should be going.
Interesting.
Um, do you
Not
disagree?
I Yeah, kind of. I like
Wow.
them. I
Okay.
like them, but I don't like them necessarily because they're very Star Wars. I just think
I,
that they're
I agree
good.
with that. It's kind of the two sides of Star Wars. You have the the imperialism side with the politics and the espionage, and then you have the mystical Jedi side. And best
Yeah.
Star Wars is a balance of those. Andor,
Yes.
Rogue One are definitely leaning towards just being focused on the imperial side and the human political atmosphere. Whereas, you
To
have
br-
something that like Ahsoka, which is leaning much more into the mystical Jedi side. So
to bring a little bit of theology, Bible into it, as I do. Um, I like the morality of Star Wars the way it typically is. It seems Eastern, and I don't like that part of it. And there's dumb stuff that comes with that. The only a Sith deals in absolutes. Ugh, that's the dumbest line in all of Star Wars. That's an absolute.
hey,
So apparently Obi-Wan's a
Kenobi
Sith.
said
Anyway,
that.
yeah. um, but even as he's saying that, he's saying absolutely you're wrong. Absolutely the light is the right side. And that concept of light and dark being good and evil is right out of scripture. I mean, John, especially in his writings, loves using that. Paul uses it. He says, Jesus has brought us out of the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of his beloved Son. Um, he Peter talks about it. He says, uh, out of darkness into marvelous light. God has brought us out of darkness into marvelous light. Um, I think the line with that comes closest to Star Wars is actually in First John. In verse 5, it says, "This is the message we have heard from him and proclaimed to you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If we say we have fellowship with him while we walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his son, cleanses us from all sin." And then it goes on actually, and I think this is an interesting mistake the Jedi make. It says, "If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say we have not sinned, we make him a liar and the word is not in us." So within that framework, it's not saying, hey, you're not going to have any darkness in you, but it's saying we need to be abandoning that darkness. And so pursuing the light. And in Star Wars, yeah, the good guys are the agents of the light, but I think a lot of where their flaw is in not admitting that they have darkness to overcome. Like there's an arrogance um,
Yeah.
that 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 the Jedi have, and so that vein of Star Wars where they're dealing with the battle between light and dark is something I really love about Star Wars, and
Hmm.
I want to see them continue in that direction. And Andor and Rogue One, especially Andor, is actually kind of saying that the light side's not really light. Like the good guys aren't really good. They're just they're just better. And I get the appeal of that. I really like those, but I just feel like it's
Yeah.
not really Star Wars.
Yeah. I think the best Star Wars balances those two things. Like, I think universally everybody would agree that Empire is the best Star Wars movie, and it does a fantastic job of telling the war story, the story of Empire versus Rebels, as well as telling the mystical story of Luke. Like, you have the opening battle sequence on Hoth, and then you have Luke go into the swamps to train with Yoda. Like, you get the best of those two things. And I think
Yeah.
the best Star Wars stories also have a deep moral question. Like, a character is
Hmm.
put to a moral test. You have Luke, saying, "Do I go and save my friends, or do I stay in the swamp and complete my training?" I think you get that with
Hmm.
Andor too, saying, is doing the bad things for the right reason, you know, the right thing in the end. And so you have that
Sure.
moral question still, even though you're lacking on the spiritual side. But I totally agree. Like, the best is like the perfect mashup of those two things, which is
Hmm.
something we've not had in Disney era Star Wars either. Um,
By the way, you said something maybe a little controversial to say
oh yeah,
that Empire is universally accepted as the best.
I don't think that's
Among those who are
controversial.
right, among those who are right, it is the best. I
Yeah.
completely agree it is the best. But there's a lot of people our age who are actually a- avid that Revenge of the Sith is the best one. They're
Oh, come
wrong,
on now. Come
but
on. Yeah.
it's not. That's not. Yeah, they're wrong. I completely agree.
they're
It's a
they're
great
good in
movie.
their own ways, but you can't say the best Star Wars is not an original trilogy movie.
Yeah, you can make an argument, I think, for A New Hope
Yeah,
because it's the
agree.
first, because it's really in some ways the perfect blockbuster. It's just like from beginning to end, it's a roller coaster. And anyway, I completely agree. I think we can move on to Mandalorian. Before we move on to the movie, did you like the show?
I liked the first two seasons of the show. The third season I thought was fine. I wasn't the biggest fan of it because I kind of thought it should have ended at season two, and I'll get into that in my review of the story, the movie as well. I didn't think there was any story for Grogu in season three. He had no reason to
Mm.
be there. I think it was better off having left him with Luke for a time. Uh,
Do
but
you can you
the first
imagine
two
how much
seasons, go ahead.
can you imagine how much better the Mandalorian and Grogu would have been if
I
Grogu
I can.
and
I
him were
wrote a full
reuniting?
script.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, I thought it should have ended there. I thought the first two seasons were perfect, almost. They had their flaws here and there, but as a collective, they were a
Which
great
one would you
watch.
prefer out of the
For
first? I completely agree about season three. Out of season one and season two, which one's your favorite? If you had
I
to pick.
mean, I don't think you can beat that Luke reappearance at the end of season two. I think that takes the cake of all of modern Star Wars. My little boy heart was completely fulfilled in that
It's
moment.
very epic. Very epic. I would say the first season. I like the first season better.
It's like the
I
perfect space western the first season, I think.
Yeah, very serialized, and I think maybe it's because I really watch a lot of Marvel, but I'm so tired of cameos. Like, I just want people to make good stories and stop trying to get me
Nostalgia
to
bait.
like something just by putting someone that I like in it. Um,
Agreed.
and so as it happened, I think I liked season two better. Like I when it was coming out, but I have been rewatching it a bit in preparation for this, and I'm the episode where like it's like the third episode, and the Mandalorian brings in Grogu and drops him off, goes and gets his armor built, and then goes, nope, and goes in there and wipes them all out. And where's the kid? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Which
satisfying.
a bit morally shady on his part, taking payment, getting the armor, and then
But
changing his mind. But it's appreciated.
it's the Empire, so
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Fair points. Okay. Do you want to get into the Mandalorian and Grogu? And then
let's do it.
potential spoilers for anybody who has not seen it. First, let's start off before we get into the spoilers. The first thing, do you recommend that general Star Wars enjoyer go and see Mandalorian and Grogu? This is a
Yes,
lot of hesitation. Okay.
yes. What I was going to say is, if you loved the Mandalorian, or if you just really liked the Mandalorian, even definitely. If you didn't like the Mandalorian show, this isn't gonna be different. This is more
Yeah.
of the show. Um, it's although I would say if you just kind of liked the Mandalorian show and you you maybe just didn't want to watch a show because you're more of a movie person, this is the Mandalorian show in a movie. Like
Yeah.
it has a full storyline. You get the antics, you get um the general vibe, especially, and this was kind of my leading question earlier. It has more season 1 vibes to me than season 2. And I think some
Yeah.
people want to go into it expecting that they're going to get season 2 reveals of lore and characters and um, bigger galaxy wide dynamics. And
Yep.
that's not what this movie is. This movie
Totally.
is a closed story. It's not going to have huge impact on any future projects. It doesn't have any huge impact on previous projects. It is a solo story. It is like a Western, like almost like a John Wayne Western to me.
Yeah.
If you like John Wayne, he's pretty much going to be the same guy in the next Western that you watch, and that next Western is not going to have anything to do with the previous one or the one after it. But if you like that, you'll like it. And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing with this show. How about you? Would you recommend?
Yeah. Very hesitantly, I say I agree with you. I think the general Star Wars enjoyer will probably have a fine time watching this movie. So go see it
Yeah.
if you're a general Star Wars enjoyer. If you're hardcore fanboy, Star Wars wanting depth and lore and surprising reveals, like you said, you're not going to get it from this movie. I think Disney made exactly the movie they wanted to make, and that's a movie that's not going to ruffle any feathers.
Yes, it was
It still
very
ruffles
safe
some
in my
feathers.
opinion.
My feathers feel a little bit ruffled, but I think they made a safe movie that the average moviegoer will have a fine time watching and walk out of and not have too many strong opinions. so
Mm.
so it's a
The
fine
opposite
time.
of the opposite of their last two movies, really.
Yeah. Which, yeah, it's been 7 years since we had a Star Wars movie because Disney's been
Yeah.
reeling trying to figure out how to do this. I think my dad hit the nail on the head when we walked out of the theater in that he said Star Wars, they don't know who they're making movies for anymore. It's like you
Mm.
have the hardcore fans, you have the casual fans, you have little kids who just want to have a fun time, and you have adults who've been watching Star Wars for 30 years, And like,
Hmm.
how do you make a movie to please all of those people? I don't think you can. So they're just trying to make a movie to hit as many buckets as they can without doing too many things that are going to be controversial and without committing to anything because they don't know what
Yeah.
they're doing next. They don't have a franchise plan still. So they're trying to make a
Mm.
movie with no impact. And that's what this is. And it's fine.
Yeah.
You might enjoy it. Go see it. There's no spoilers there, I don't think.
No, I don't think we have
Okay.
given any spoilers. It, um, yeah, I have some positives and negatives, and um, I want to hear yours. So, moving more into spoiler territory, what
Okay.
was your favorite thing
Mm,
in the movie? Like, what was the thing you liked the most about it, or some of the things you liked the most about it?
I'm trying to
You're the
think.
retcon. That might be the wrong question. Maybe I should start with what
I
did you hate
definitely
about
have a bigger list of things I didn't like.
it?
um, my favorite thing is also something I didn't like, and that was Mando's combat. Like the action in this is very good. I think you get really cool action throughout the movie.
Hmm.
Very much like a John Wick it felt at times, but in Star Wars. Like you said, very westerny with shootouts happening
Hmm.
constantly almost. I enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed kind of the father son relationship with Grogu and Mando, which I think was a
Hmm.
lot more explicit in this movie than it's been previously.
Hmm.
They've always had that kind of relationship, but it's like getting named as like a father son relationship now, whereas before it's been kind of a fostering situation. It feels
Yeah.
like. So, what about you? What you got?
Just expanding on that a little bit, the father son dynamic is really thematic for the whole movie because that's also the theme with Jabba and
Mm-hmm.
Rada. Like it's playing off that relationship of this is Rada's father by blood
Mm-hmm.
is terrible and has set him up so horribly, and he's leaving that behind. Whereas
Yep.
Grogu's father, adopted father, is raising him up more intentionally and to be
Yep.
someone that goes after someone to save them. And
Yep.
so,
Which I don't want to get too into it now. I felt like that moral was probably one of the biggest misses of the movie because I think
mm,
they could have hammered that in, like that could have landed a lot better had Rada not started the movie as a good guy, because he
sure,
starts the movie already rejecting his father's legacy, and I think that was
right,
the
right,
biggest mistake they made. But we'll get into that later,
yeah,
probably.
yeah, yeah. So that's definitely not a huge positive for me. I One of the coolest things that I had the thought during the movie is this could almost be a silent film and you would still get it,
Yeah.
which was George Lucas's intention with the original trilogy, especially
Hmm.
the first movie. He wanted to make it so if you didn't hear one voice, you would still have a general idea of what was happening.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's pretty true of this movie. Um, I really did like the Western styling of it. Um, so I liked the shootouts. There was maybe a little bit too much shaky cam for me. I'm not a huge fan of the like. I I want more like John Wick where they put the camera out and they do all the action and the camera kind of just stays still.
Sure. Hmm.
And they did a little bit more of the like Jason Bourne, move the
Yeah.
camera around to. Um, but like I like the Western part of it. I did like the um, kind of the same beat as that Mandalorian episode I mentioned where Grogu he goes and saves Grogu, even though it. But in this case, he doesn't take the money when he's supposed to go turn in Rada, and he
Yeah.
goes, "This is wrong. Like I'm not gonna go send this guy to his death. So I'm not gonna take any money for this. I'm gonna get the guy." And so there's this almost Han Solo
Yeah.
um, and
It's
it
funny.
reminds me, not to always be the Reverend, but it reminds me of the parable Jesus tells where he says the father goes and asks the son to go and uh, it's like tend the sheep or go work the field, and he says no, and then he goes and asks his other son, and his other son says yes, but the first son who said no goes and works the field, and the second son who said yes doesn't. Which one honored the father? Well, it was that first son. And so Mandalorian kind of takes the place of that the first son here, where he's like, "No, I'm doing this for the money," and then switches and does the right thing, um, and even does the right thing in an extension where the Republic goes, "Well, we'll still give you the money because you got the bad guy in the end," and he goes, "This one's on me because I did the right thing instead of what was exactly commanded of me to do."
Yeah.
So that was
That
probably
seems to
my
be the Reverend.
favorite favorite parts of the movie. Um, yeah. So, what are some of your negatives?
Yeah, it's interesting you said like, you know, comparing Mando to the show versus the movie. Like in the show, he took the money first and then went and helped. He changed his mind, and then this he was good from the get go. He's like, I'm going to do the right thing because there is some character growth there between. One of my biggest flaws or dislikes of this movie is there are no character arcs for Mando or Grogu. They do not change an ounce throughout this movie. It's really the Rot of the Hut story, except
Hmm.
his motivations are not fleshed out because he already made his decision at the beginning of the movie. So
Mm,
he doesn't even have a character arc really, but his is the closest we come to that. What I was talking about before is the moral question. He's the only one with a true. I mean, we already know what Mando's going to do. I feel like he's not making big moral decisions here.
yeah.
Um, Whereas Rada, I think, has a little more of that, but it's so sidelined. I feel like they failed on not leaning more into Rada's story. I don't know if they were scared of making Gross Slugman the main focus of the story, but I felt like they should have leaned into that. They should have had him start out without a clear decision, been torn between am I going to carry on my father's legacy and run his empire, or am I going to make my own choices? I think that would have been such a
Mm,
stronger story. We needed a
that would
character
be a good
arc
retcon.
somewhere in this story. That's the biggest take. I said I love the action. There was too much action in this movie. We did not need a gunfight every other scene. I was so tired of watching Mandalorian run around shooting things by the end of the show. I was like, another fight. Here we go. Like that 30-minute span of like Grogu in the swamp was such a reprieve. Like I was like, thank goodness, like we're not gonna have a fight for a little while because it's just Grogu running around and doing swamp things. But
I wonder what 5-year-old Cody would think of that negative. I know that 5-year-old Levi often would skip
yeah,
all the dialogue to get to the action scenes.
yeah, I went with my nephews and they all loved the movie, so I think that it wasn't too much action for them. You're probably right, and they probably hated that the swamp scene. But I found it refreshing, at least.
Yeah.
I wasn't too big of a fan of the Grogu arc. Otherwise, I feel like, man, Disney is really suffering because they do not want to let Grogu grow up. And I
Mm,
went into this movie with the expectation that maybe we'll see a time skip. We'll see Grogu grow a little bit and do something. But coming out of it, I realized that was naive and that Grogu is Star Wars Pikachu and he's never going to grow up.
Hmm.
I don't think we will see that in a movie in our lifetime. We might see some Legends books written about it at some point, but I
Hmm.
don't think, I think he's too much of a cash cow for them to let him grow up. Uh, Maybe we'd get lucky and see something like Groot's arc from Marvel, but I don't know if we'll even
Yeah,
get there.
you know, I'm kind of with you, but I feel like season one Grogu does not nurse Din Djarin back to health.
Yeah,
Like
he's growing,
and
he's
the
aging a little bit, but it's not
yeah,
enough. I need to see him run around with a lightsaber.
I was really hoping he would say something in this one. I was like,
Agreed.
I walked into that. We didn't really talk about what our expectations that were going in,
Yeah.
but that was something that I really wanted to see happen was, and for it to be in the Yoda speak, maybe not sound exactly the same, but like be backwards, whatever he said.
hmm Which
Um,
I don't think we're going to get that when we do, based on the Huts now speaking Common, which
yeah,
I was not a fan of. Like, I thought the lore was that their vocal cords weren't capable of producing Common. I could be wrong about that, but they definitely
huh.
retcon that, and not for good effect.
A couple things that I think helped this movie. If you go and look at Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is like the best audience score Star Wars has seen in a while. The critic score is still fresh. It's in the low 60s. It's barely fresh. And Rotten Tomatoes is the percentage that critics rated it positively or audiences rated it positively. So
Yep.
if every critic put 6 out of 10, it would have a Rotten Tomatoes 100%. And if every audience member put 6 out of 10, same thing. So it's
Hmm.
not everyone thinks it's a 9 out of 10 movie, but more people thought it was good than thought it was bad. But I think part of the reason the audience score is better is because the critics warned so much of the audience what they were getting.
Yep.
Like the critics went in going, "This is the first Star Wars movie in 7 years," and said, "Oh, this was not the spectacle. This was a continuation of Mandalorian." Like,
Yep.
and so then the audiences went in not with the expectation of, "Oh, this is," and so then they liked it more because they went in with those lowered
Yep.
expectations.
Totally. I'm there all the way because I was like going in, thinking about expectations before the movie, before any reviews. I was like, the only things that are going to save this movie for me is Grogu aging up and an appearance by Luke. And I was like, those are the two things I want to see. And then the first reviews came out, and I watched like a spoiler-free review from like New Rockstars, as a YouTuber. I don't know if you've ever watched, but he does good spoiler-free reviews, and he was like, "This is very much Mandalorian season 4. It's very episodic. It's very much three different arcs, and
Hmm.
it feels like three different episodes stitched together, and that's what you're going to get." And I was like, okay, this reframes my expectation. And I think knowing that definitely allowed me to enjoy it a lot more than I would have earlier otherwise.
Yeah,
So you're right
yeah.
there.
I'll shout out Sean Chandler talks about is my movie guy. He talks about movies too much, and he said like the exact same thing. It's three
Yep.
episodes of a TV show. And he was maybe a little harder on it than I would have been. He said that not even like great episodes of that TV show, just good ones. Like if they came out in a regular season, I would have said those were good episodes. But I wouldn't have said they were great, like the season finale of season 2 where Luke shows up. That's a great episode.
Yeah.
Um, these
I will
weren't
say
great. They were good.
the first arc of Mandu going to what I called in my head Star Wars Chicago, because that's what it felt like. Whatever that planet was totally Chicago in the Star Wars world. Also, I thought it felt too human, too Earth human for Star Wars. Like,
Mm,
we've had city planets, we've had Coruscant before, but nothing has ever felt that distinctly like Earth, which I didn't love.
mm,
But that arc, that planet, the start of that to when he gets Rhoda, I thought that was great. Like, I came out of that first arc feeling like pumped. I was like, this is good. Like, this is great. Hated the soundtrack, which that synth pop, whatever was going on, that's not Star Wars. That does not belong in Star Wars. Get rid of it and never do it again, because that took me out of it entirely. But the arc,
Interesting.
I was really, really happy with. Like, I thought I was in for a great time after that. I was like, my opinions were wrong. This is going to be amazing. So I would say that was a really good episode of The Mandalorian.
Sure,
But what followed was not as amazing.
sure.
But it was decent.
As far as the music is a huge part of why I love Star Wars. I'm a I'm a musician,
Mm-hmm.
and I really loved the music of Star Wars. And my grandpa showed me Star Wars because of the music. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, the rest is fine, but do you hear the music? Like he was just really obsessed with that. Um, I thought the music was trying too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's because it's trying to fill the shoes of John Williams. Like,
Right, totally.
but they took some swings, and I think they had some pretty drastic misses. And I would have, I actually thought of that illustration, and I feel like that synth version of the Mandalorian theme song was a big swing, flip
Ugh.
around, hit the bat in the back of your head, like fall
Yep.
over. It was a
That
bad
was
swing and a miss.
Yeah, when that started going on, I was just like, it just reminded me of everything Disney does not understand about Star Wars. Because there's an atmosphere to Star Wars, like, and if you miss
Yeah.
that atmosphere, you're missing such a big part of the universe. And Mandalorian season 1 and season 2, I think, understood that. We've had several Star Wars shows that understand that kind of gravitas that a Star
Hmm.
Wars episode or movie has to inhabit. I feel like this missed out on a lot. I feel like several of the shows haven't understood that. Thinking of like Skeleton Crew, The Acolyte for sure. Like you have the ones that get it and you have the ones that don't. And I feel like Disney really has to figure out how to recreate that reliably, because
Hmm.
when it's not there, it doesn't feel like Star Wars, which this didn't totally not feel like Star Wars. It just had its moments where it didn't feel like Star Wars.
I agree. Also, I would put the no character growth in mixed. I'm mixed about it. I'm not necessarily that opposed. Um,
Mm,
Again, I love westerns, and there's a lot of westerns where there is zero character growth
you're right. Yeah.
in the characters, but it's more them in these situations, and that's the plot.
Well, yeah, I
The
think too
plot is what
that
drives it.
in a
But
lot of westerns you have your main character, your central figure, your John Wayne or your Clint Eastwood or
hmm
whoever, and they come in as this heroic figure that doesn't have an arc per se,
hmm
but your side characters are having that arc, which is where
yeah,
again
that's your
they
best
should
point.
have been
I
Rhoda's.
Yep, it should have been Rhoda's. I'm with you, and maybe a little bit more with Grogu. Even just I feel like even if they had made him speak or
Yeah.
something like that, it would have.
Yeah. Which there's a little bit of an arc there, I suppose, with Grogu having to be self sufficient. Like you said, first season
Yeah,
Mando, Grogu's not revitalizing Mando.
yeah,
They could have probably harped on that a little bit more, had to make some crucial decisions. I
yeah.
They nailed, Grogu doing cute Grogu things. Like they
hmm
understand what makes money. They understand that he's a mascot and
What?
totally. I did enjoy him building like a little Yoda hut. I thought that was a great touch.
Yeah, that was a good nod.
Which I
That was a
saw
good
a
nod.
post on like Reddit or something today was like, so Yoda building that hut on Dagobah, that's just like hardwired into his DNA of wanting to build mud huts. Which
Yeah, that's
it's a
good.
good character beat, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
um
Um. So,
the
question for you:
mhm.
Was this better than the sequel trilogy?
Yeah, definitely better than some of it. I would say,
Maybe
and
not
this might
the Force Awakens. You'd maybe put that above this.
yeah, I'd put Force Awakens above this. I would put, and this is probably maybe the most controversial thing I'll say today. I would put Solo above this.
Okay. So
I'm
you
a big
liked?
Solo
Did
fan.
you like Solo?
I like Solo. I thought it did. yes, there was too much nostalgia bait in there, which Disney can't seem to help themselves with the nostalgia bait. But I thought,
Sure.
there's better arcs in there for sure. Like Khan has an arc. There's there's good spirituality with some of the, well, maybe not spirituality, but there's good moral questions there. Even though Han does the most predictable thing he could do at every turn, I think it's better storytelling than what we got here.
Yeah. I would put them right next to each other,
That's fair.
Solo and the and I've seen Solo. I think I've only seen Solo once. I would put Grogu, Mandalorian Grogu above it. Mainly because I didn't want Solo. Like, it's not that it did a bad job with what it did. I just
Agreed.
didn't want
I
it.
feel the same way about this. We didn't need this movie. Like I told you, like this. I don't think this was a story that needed to be told.
Hmm.
To quote New Rockstars again, like they said in their review, which I thought was such a great point, like a movie spinoff from a TV show should be covering the most important moments in those characters' lives. Um, and we
Yeah.
don't get that here. Like there's nothing important happening to the Mandalorian or Grogu. It's just their average Tuesday.
Yeah.
So why does this
Sean
story need
Chandler.
told?
Sean Chandler, going to my nerdy guy I watch, suggested that it would have been a lot better if they didn't do season three, and changed it into a movie where the Moff Gideon was making the clones of himself, and it explored how this Sith cloning, and then it would be a connection too for the sequel trilogy of, hey,
Yep.
we're going to set some framework for this evil cloning, and
Yep.
this is going to slow it down. This is the and so when they see that it's force enhanced cloning, the Mandalorian goes to the only Jedi he knows, and Grogu has trained, and now Luke is saying, "You go on this mission." And so Grogu goes on this mission with Mando. Now it's more of and I was like, yeah, that's a much better
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
in
That's
the
a good movie
universe.
too. Yeah. 100%. There's a hundred good movies that could have been made that would have been better than this.
Hmm.
Like for me, I thought what they should have, like if it ended at season two, the most important question relating to Mandalorian and Grogu is the question they completely brushed over in, was it even Book of Boba Fett where it happened, where Luke tells Grogu he has to choose to be a
Yeah.
Mandalorian or to be a Jedi.
Oh,
Like
the
that should have been the
worst. That's
focus of
not
the movie.
Luke. That
It's
makes
not
me
Luke.
question
But
Dave Filoni.
if he's gonna ask that question, that should be, first off, Grogu's too young to make that decision. Like he's not coherent enough. Like he's 50 or whatever, but he's not
Yeah.
mentally capable. That should be a big pivotal moment in his life though, when he does make that decision. Instead it's just like it's nothing. It's a nothing decision and he's a Mandalorian now.
Yeah. That decision to me was like, Filoni, you're supposed to understand Luke better than Ryan Johnson.
Mhm.
Every time Luke was faced with the question of, do I be a better Jedi or do I die and serve the ones I love, he always chose, I serve the
Totally.
ones I love.
Yep.
And then here he's like, you can't love, you can't have this attachment. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
No, that's not Luke. um,
So yeah,
so
kind
I
of my
thought that was
movie
really good.
pitch. My movie pitch. I won't go in too much detail, even though I wrote out like a full like itemized
Do it.
script
You're the
for this.
retcon. This is
No,
what
we
people are
don't.
looking for.
If it ended at season two, I think we should have had a time skip a few years, let Grogu age up, let him train, let him be a capable Jedi. Maybe don't have him have his lightsaber yet. Let that be kind of the pivotal moment where Luke comes to him and says, "It's time for you to take the next step in your training, but you have to make your choice: Mandalorian or Jedi. And if you choose Jedi, we'll do the lightsaber." Instead of making a decision, Grogu runs away. Um, he maybe goes to find his own people because I feel like that would be important to him too, to know where he came from.
Mm.
And so you get Luke. Sorry, I'm trying to remember what I wrote. So Luke kind of lets Mandalorian know like Grogu's gone. Like I gave him this choice. He ran away. So Mando's like, I'm going to go find him. They go to the Yoda homeworld, even though I know that's controversial. Nobody wants to know where Yoda's from or what his species are called. But I think it's if we're going to have a Grogu movie, I think it's something we want to see. And Gideon follows them there to get more Yodites, is what I'm calling them, to clone.
Yeah. Huh.
To kind of investigate their connection to the Force to increase that, cloning ability. I had the same kind of thought. They need to develop that cloning Snoke connection. Have Grogu kind of meet his species, be given maybe a third option of who he's going to be. In the end, have Mando get captured, have Grogu have to step up and merge his trainings, become the Jedi, become the Mandalorian, connected. And then Darksaber was destroyed in season 3, I think. So but I was going to say he should either recreate the Darksaber into his own saber, because the Darksaber was created by a Mandalorian Jedi, but his Darksaber should be green, a green Darksaber. And that's kind of the end of or not the end, but he creates his own saber and resolves the conflict. And I was like, that's the better movie. Maybe not the best movie. I wrote that in like a few minutes, but I was like, anything is better.
No.
If there's, if it ends at season 2.
Yeah.
That's where it should have ended. That's when the movie should have gotten the movie. Instead, we get Mandalorian Grogu, which is a fine movie. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it's not a story that needed told.
No.
It's
very much it's very much a one-off, and I think that it's actually, the movie as a whole is a hit. Like in baseball terms, maybe it's a bunt. Like it goes forward movement.
Yeah.
It's not a home run. It's not crazy, but I feel like they completely struck out with The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi was right on the edge of foul ball. I might say that it's on the right side. You might say it's on the wrong side. Maybe it's a little contestable. But this movie, they played it safe, and so they didn't make a ton of ground. But I do think that maybe the goal of the movie is to get a little faith back. Like, hey, we can make something that you guys like, generally, and audiences seem to. And there's headlines saying, "Oh, it made a new record. It's the lowest box office ever for Star Wars."
Yeah.
Beating out Solo. It's very close to Solo, but also the budget was half of what it was for Solo. So they pretty much already surpassed the budget. So it's already practically a commercial success. Whereas
also,
Solo
it's
was a flop.
Sequel to a TV series that the whole world hasn't watched. So your audience is limited in that. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Disney made this movie by accident, which is kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, they made the movie they intended to make for the purposes that they believed the most critical. Like, they wanted to make a movie that won't offend. They wanted to make a movie that will give you happy feelings in relation to Star Wars. And they did it. They succeeded. It's fine.
So we might be going a little long here, but one of my favorite movies, in my top 10 movies of all time, is the movie Chef. Have you seen Chef?
Oh yeah, love Chef.
Jon Favreau, and same director. And the comment he was making with that movie in many ways was, he made Iron Man, everyone loved it, and the chef in the movie made all this food, and everyone loved it. And then for his next big move, the people, the boss man or Marvel said, make the same thing. And he said, I don't want to make the same thing, but they said, you can do what you want, but we want you to make the same thing. And so he made the same thing. And then the critics didn't like it, so then he came back and he was going to make his fancy thing, and Marvel said, "No, we're not going to. We want you to make the same thing again. That it's for the fans. It's not for the critics." And so he throws a tantrum and he goes and he makes indie project. So he made Chef, and that's when that movie was made in his career,
Yeah.
and it was a passion project. And then he went into doing stuff he was passionate about. Not that I love all that stuff, Jungle Book and The
Yep.
Lion King, the technological achievements for sure. This movie to me feels like John Favreau made the generic thing.
Yep.
And what I want to see, I don't want them to not have Favreau continue. I want them to go, Favreau, do whatever you want.
Agreed.
Make something epic. And I hope that he gets that opportunity to make
Yeah.
something creative and epic and not safe.
Which I do think this was Filoni's movie more than Favreau. Like
Mm,
Filoni introduced Road to the Hut, and I think he wanted to be his introduction to being the Star Wars man.
sure,
There was even they even said he wanted to put Ahsoka in this, and Favreau wouldn't let him do that. So I think
sure.
he wanted this to be, this is my era as the Disney president, and this is the introduction. Look at these old characters that I introduced. Look at Rhoda, and look at the bounty hunter guy that I didn't think added much of anything to this movie.
Hmm.
I think Favreau, he's a corporate man. I think corporations, Disney specifically, trust him because he's consistent and he delivers. But I totally agree with you. Like, they need to trust him more and let him just run wild with a project. And I'd love to see him do that with a Star Wars property for sure.
Hmm.
But
So I don't mind them playing it safe too. I understand the merits of them playing it safe. And if they come out with another movie like Mandalorian Grogu, guess what? I'm gonna go, and I'm probably gonna have a good time. But what I want, I think there's so much more potential. I think there's potential for greatness again in Star Wars,
I agree.
and
They
I
need to
feel like
take
the
some
only way to do
risks.
that is to go shoot for the fences,
No,
and then stick to your guns. Like if you come out with a sequel, if you come out with another trilogy, and the first one comes out, and people go, "Oh, we didn't like that," don't correct the ship, see it through,
tell a
and see
story.
what happens.
No, totally
Because
agree.
all of us love the prequels now, and when it came out, no one did. But I
Yep.
do not think that will be the case in 20 years with the sequel trilogy. I
I
do
don't think
not
so
think
either.
it will be beloved.
Yeah, I think they're kind of banking on that. I think that's why they're delaying the Ray movie. They want to let those kids who saw the sequel trilogy age up a little bit. I don't think it's going to work out for them because I think we loved it because our parents were passionate about taking us to see it, and they were
Hmm.
enthusiastic about it. Even if maybe they didn't love it, there was enough in there for us to grab onto. I don't think
Hmm.
the sequel trilogy has that. There's no story there. Like, even as kids, you understand when a story is good or when it's bad, and there was no
Hmm.
story there at all.
No,
So
no
yeah,
foreshadowing.
optimistically hoping Star Wars can right the ship, hoping they can give us more projects we love. Um,
Me
but
too.
that remains to be seen.
Well, thank you for joining us. This has been the Reverend and the Retcon.
Yeah, if you like the content we're putting out, we hope you will give us a like or subscribe or recommend us to your friends. And we hope to see you next time.